if you are watching live, or if you're watching live on my Facebook page, or you are watching in a recording and you have not gotten my book yet, the best way to get it is on my website, pattiluciawrites.com. You get a discount there, and you get to sign up for my, get to subscribe to my website. And that means I get to stay in touch with you, not in an obnoxious way or anything, but I get to stay in touch with you, and let you know when my next books are coming out. So,
see an email. It's always exciting.
Say that again, Taylor?
It's always get an email from you.
Oh, well, that's nice. I try not to, there are some folks, you sign up for a newsletter and you get like, it's practically daily. Yeah. That's obnoxious. All right. So today we are reading from the Centripetal Velocity, and Jessica, tell me if I'm saying this wrong. Even when I was writing the story, I was trying to remember what was written on the whiteboard, and we'll get into that. But at first I was spelling it wrong. I was like, I thought it was spelled this way, but spell check keeps telling me it's spelled this way. So that was kind of interesting, even just making sure I got the spelling right for the title of the book, of the story. But today we're reading from the Centripetal Velocity of Jessica Sue, and we have Jessica Sue with us. So it's such a delight to be reading from a story about someone and actually have them here. So, gracing us with their presence. So what do you think, Taylor? Do you want to jump into it, or did you want to chat with Jessica before we start, or do you want to jump into the story?
Talk to Jessica for a little while.
She's game.
Yeah. Did you want to read The Crown?
I do. I'm going to. So you want to jump into it? I'm going to read The Crown, and then we can get into it. All right. Awesome. So just the way that the way the book is set up, there is a crone narrator. She is kind of a wild and courageous, wise woman who is my imagined future self. And so she introduces each story. And so here it is. Here's her introduction to the Centripetal Velocity of Jessica Sue. Wild and brilliant girls pay a heavy price for their untamed intelligence, says the crone. The fairies sit up. They are familiar with untamed intelligence. They are less likely to be prom queens and voted most popular. They are an endangered species. But few wish to protect them. Most wish to control them. Jessica Sue was like a rare bird who landed on a desk in my class one day. The fairies pluck another feather from another petal and throw it in the fire. For Jessica Sue, she says, one of us. So that's the introduction. Where do you want to go from here, Taylor?
Well, I think we should just talk to Jessica. I think that I'm so thrilled that you were able to join us. It's awesome. And I think, it's early in Cali.
It is early in Cali.
This early morning.
One of the things about this, when I had sent a copy to Jessica before I published, her response was, well, I don't really remember it that way. So it was kind of funny. I had this whole experience, and it's so true. I mean, those of us who have siblings, this as well. You can have this whole experience and you think that your siblings have kind of gone through or experienced the same exact thing. And lo and behold, they have not. So there was this whole experience that I had, which was, kind of an emotional experience for me. And Jessica was kind of nonplussed by it. She was like, yeah, that's not how I saw it. But, that's not how I experienced it. And in a way, I thought, Well, that's really cool, and I'm glad. I'm glad about that. I was slightly embarrassed that I'm, just I can be overly emotional about things. Jessica's definitely more the logical, the logical one, and I was more obviously the one experiencing it emotionally. But Jessica, you want to jump in, say a few words about that?
Yeah, I think to be honest, when I was in high school, I was very like focused on academics, so I didn't really care whether I was like homecoming queen or not.
Yeah,
And if I was,
I love that.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and that is true, and you were well, and rightfully so.
I know for me growing up, it was always a breath of fresh air to have a teacher who acknowledged the full presence of what I was capable of. Um, and I assume that Patti, I would imagine Patti being one of those teachers. So I was just wondering, in your eyes, um, was it how was it for you to have teachers that kind of embraced you in that way?
yeah. I thought Miss Lucia was pretty amazing. So
She kind of thinks out of the box. So as a teacher, I'm like, those kids are so lucky to have you teach them.
yeah, I think I was very lucky to have her.
Well, but Jessica, I've often thought that as you went through, like you went on, of course, Jessica you got a full scholarship to Caltech, so you weren't at Suncoast your senior year.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. So she went on, instead of going into her senior year, she went on to Caltech on a full scholarship, and then went on to get her master's, and then you got your doctoral degree. And along the way, I'm sure that you had academic support. You had people along the way who were kind of there for you, I
yeah,
imagine.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, where do you want to go, Taylor?
I'm thinking I'm just going to pull um, snippets, if
Okay.
that's it. Um, I really loved what you wrote um, for her recommendation.
Oh yeah.
That was for culture.
Jessica, I don't think Jessica knew that's what I wrote. She
Well,
just
I
kind
that.
of but I imagine when she saw it in the story, Jessica, you probably got a giggle out of that, out
Yeah,
of
I thought
my
it was funny.
I
yeah.
love your recommendations. Like, what did they say about me? Need to know. So Patti wrote, Jessica Sue is the poet of math and rock star of physics. The rest of the world just doesn't know it yet. To say more might dim her shine with my own mediocrity. And
Yeah,
I
it's
just love
pretty accurate. Pretty accurate there. Yeah. Yeah. It's rare. Um, oh, at least it's been rare for me. I don't know. I can't speak for all the other teachers, but like it's rare to have a young person come into a school, as a student who is far more brilliant than the other students and more brilliant than the faculty. And that was you, Jessica. I mean, honestly, I was just like, yeah, I could live 100 lifetimes. I'm not going to be smarter than Jessica Sue, and that's kind of how I felt about the boys who were, and they were highly competitive in this school, and Suncoast is a very competitive school, and so they were, there were young, particularly the boys, I think, were annoyed often with Jessica Sue because I mean, Jess, you had, there you were, your scores were high. There was There was just no way. There was no way that they could, you know, that they could compete with
Yeah, I
you.
guess I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Maybe they just weren't competition.
No, I don't think they were ever competition for you, Jessica. And that's the thing. That's what I loved. And, you know, there were so many things that I liked about you, Jessica, as a student. And one of them is that you were just, everyone was it was a highly competitive atmosphere there academically and in other ways. But you just kind of went about your business doing your thing. Just totally focused on what you were doing, not so much even noticing how competitive most of the other students were, to a fault sometimes, because and I think it's because they were like let's be honest. I mean, a lot of them had to cheat.
Really?
a lot of them had to kind of cheat their way through, to get some of the grades and to get some of the, the accolades that they got. Yeah. And this was something that was stunning to me at Suncoast. I was like, wow, I can't believe that. But I honestly, I think it's because they just didn't have the intellectual rigor.
Wait, so if they cheated, how would you know they all cheated? Unless, did all of them get in trouble, or?
No, no, it was kind of like cheating was part of the culture.
Really?
Yeah, it was part of the culture. I know. Look how shocked Jessica Sue is, Taylor, honestly.
Well, I'm just
but it was because it was such a competitive culture that there was that kind of thing where cheating on exams or cheating on homework or having other people write your essays, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was just part of the culture.
I think about my growing up, high school years, and all of my friends either went to Suncoast or Dreyfus.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And a lot of them had ends, these kids' families were very well off, and a lot of them got into the school or into the magnet programs. And not that that's necessarily cheating, but they had assistance to get where they needed to go.
Right.
And even at our school, it was kind of one of those things that was a hush hush spoken, but still going on. And I remember, like, I had to write a letter for myself to get into G-Star. And I think that they were so, I remember the founder of the school calling me on the telephone himself and saying, I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to accept you on the spot because what you wrote was so insanely unique. And I was just blatantly honest. You know how I am. Honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really just want an opportunity coming out of Lake Worth and not getting the opportunity that my friends had going to a more prestigious school like, Dreyfus or Suncoast. And so I just remember that like shock voice, like, you wrote that? Being like, yeah, I sure did.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine for somebody that's just like, you just weren't bothered, Jessica. You went to school to do what needed to be done so that you could get on with what you were doing with your life. But I'm sure that there were trepidatious people around you, whether you acknowledged them or not, that weren't putting forth the effort that you were. I would have been highly annoyed. I don't know.
I have a question about that. So me and my husband are planning to have kids pretty soon, probably in the next couple of years. And we live in Palo Alto, which is probably one of the most competitive neighborhoods and school districts in the country. So if we wanted to make sure that they don't resort to cheating eventually, how would we do it in your teacherly experience?
Wow, that's a really, really good question. I think that it's really a tough one. Your kids will know. Your kids will know if it's going on. But are you concerned about your own children? Or are you concerned about the culture of the schools?
Well, I guess I just don't want my kids to turn out to be cheaters.
Yeah, I would even worry about that, Jessica. I really wouldn't. I think that because they're going to have the parents that they have.
Right. I say accountability.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like it's not even in your, it's not even in your thoughts.
I'm writing an essay and I'm in the room. Like, are you sure that's not plagiarism? Is it?
You're right.
Was that verbiage used? Are you, so I kind of am aware and available for my kids. And so I think that in that stance, when your parents are really present, that you are always aware of what's going on with them to the best of your ability. And then, what we teach our children, it really shows, in academics as far as, being true to yourself makes such a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And accomplishing everything that you accomplish on your own merits. And Jessica, that's what you do. I imagine that's what your husband does, and that's how you raise your children. So I don't think you ever have to worry about that. And listen, you didn't even know you were surrounded by cheaters when you were going in high school. Yeah. You kind of blew them out of the water. I mean, they were relieved when you weren't there senior year because they got they got all of the top accolades, the cum laude, all of those things all those titles that, you won at graduation, right? You would have blown them all out of the water with, those kinds of things, but it wasn't even anything that you were interested in. You were kind of singularly focused on, you kind of knew what you wanted to do. You wanted to do, you were striving for excellence. And that's kind of what your focus was. And that's kind of where it took you.
Yeah. If I had stayed my senior year, I would have had to write an extended essay. I would have had to take IB exams seriously, would have had to do community service. I would have had to just do like a bunch of things that why wouldn't I just go to college instead of like
exactly exactly because honestly all of those things are high school students' way of saying, hey, I qualify because I've done this community service. I qualify. Look at me. This is what I've accomplished. And you really didn't need to do that because you had accomplished enough just based on your own intelligence and merit by the time you were a junior to kind of hop right over and go to Caltech on a full scholarship, So, but that's, most high school students, certainly the ones that I teach now, need to jump through all those hoops. And you just didn't have to. So I don't know. I would say to you, Jessica, I would not worry about your children because you and your husband will raise them with many of the, with like the same values. I mean, maybe, you are not your parents, so you won't do things exactly like your parents did, but with kind of those basic values, and they will be really brilliant like their parents. And they won't need to, though they might have people who are, who feel competitive with them or feel upset because they can't compete with them. They can't compete with their intelligence. They can't compete with their abilities, and so sometimes that's upsetting to people because they want to top ranked. And it's hard to be top ranked when you've got, someone in the room who has twice your intelligence or three times your intelligence. It's like, so, and that's kind of how I saw much of what was going on at Suncoast. It was kind of an interesting observation, but I had a lot of respect for the way that you handled it.
Thanks. So I guess I do have another question. So I'm sure that there are lots of people who also have like good values, right? And they probably wouldn't cheat, but then their children end up cheating. So why does that happen?
I honestly think that it really does come down to how the young people, how their children see themselves. So in other words, a lot of times young people will want to cheat because they want to measure up to the expectations of their parents. So they're inclined to do that if they feel that sometimes it's just because they're overwhelmed by the material and they know that they're not going to be able to get the score on their own, so then it's a temptation. Because if you're in a culture where it's kind of like drugs, like you can walk down the street and there are always drug dealers around. But you're not really going to notice them or be inclined to do that because because of the way that you feel or your morals or your values or whatever. But when people are emotionally vulnerable and all of that, it's kind of like that's when so those people have been there all along, and that opportunity has been there all along, but it generally takes something happening with that individual for them to even notice or for them to even be inclined to want to do that. So it might be not such a great analogy, but I think that that young people are aware that there are others who, are cheating. And so the opportunity is there. And it really, I think that what makes a young person vulnerable to wanting that can be pressure from their parents. Like I'm not going to accept, a grade, or whatever. It could be things like that, where it could be self-worth issues, like I'm only going to feel good about myself if I get this. So I have to do whatever I need to do to get this. And so then there's the temptation, because what if my best isn't good enough? And I think that there are some well-intentioned young people who might feel that way. What if my best isn't good enough? What am I going to do? It's a valid question. So if a child is raised in a family that says, listen, if you do your best, that's all we ask. All we ask is that you do your best. We're not going to judge you. We're not going to be upset with you. We just do your best and be honest. Be honest. Just do you, be you. And I think that if young people get that kind of message from their parents, then they are less inclined to cheat, because what's the motive? Honestly, when you think about it, there has to be motive. So there has to be motive to cheat, even if you're in a culture where, you could say, oh, everyone's doing it, but you still kind of have to have a motive to do it. I mean, what do you think, Taylor? You want to jump in? Taylor's got 3 young sons. So
my middle son recently came home with a report card that I was, kind of surprised by. And it wasn't necessarily his academics, but the elective work. He's working online. We are having to do school at home this year, which I think is difficult enough in and of itself. But it was essentially that he chose not to do this work. He just kind of focused on, math, science, English, social studies, and didn't worry about turning in his theater work, and didn't focus on the assignments that he had to do for the, peer elective that he was supposed to be participating in. And I was confused, like, so did he do this because he was more focused on his academics, or was it out of, laziness that he chose against completing this because he wanted to get back to his extracurricular activities at home? And we sat him down, the both of us, and I would these conversations then pressure my child to feel like he has to perform a certain way. And so I reminded him that, albeit your grades are so important, because I would like for you to always have that, stability and school.
Right.
However, the grades don't define who you are to us. And there are things that that cannot be graded to show your intelligence, and your capacity for learning, and the lessons that can't be taught in a school. You have mastered those lessons at the age of 11. And I think that it's important to remind him that's not everything. Grades do not make you who you are, because you're smart in ways of mind and spirit that far surpass academic grade skills.
Yeah, it's kind of like, letting a child know how valued they are for being exactly who they are, their unique selves. I mean, so Jessica, if you decide you're going to have, like, say, 2 or 3 children, each child is going to be so utterly unique, just like the siblings in your family. You know how different you are from perhaps your siblings. And let's say, because okay, so you and your husband are brilliant computer engineers, right? Is that pretty much? I'm going to say brilliant. Just say yes, Jessica. But it is computer engineering, right? What if you had a son or a daughter who was also brilliant? I mean, it's really hard for you two not to have brilliant children, right? So we're just going to say genetically, it's pretty. It's a very strong possibility you guys are going to have brilliant children. However, what if one of your children doesn't want to have anything to do with engineering? They're completely artistic, and they want to put all of their thoughts and their brilliance and all of that into creating art. I mean, that could happen, right? And then you would have to just figure out, well, how are, this is an odd one. I wonder where she came from. Say that. But where'd she come from? We're all computer engineers here. But it's, it can happen, and it does happen. And so as a parent, then, that's something that you and your husband would have to figure out. Well, how are we going to, to support this particular child, though they're not there, it's unexpected.
In my opinion, if they could become an artist and they could make a healthy living doing that, that makes them more lucky than most people. Because I think most people go to a job and it's just for the money. Like, if somebody paid them the same amount of money to sit at home, watch TV, and browse Reddit, they would take that. But an artist probably wouldn't,
Do you still write poetry, Jessica?
Huh?
Do you still write poetry?
No, not really. I read a lot of answers on Quora now, though.
Yeah, you do. You do. There's a Taylor, do you know what Quora is?
I'm familiar.
Okay. So, Jessica, and I think on Quora you have followers, right? Like it's the same. You have people who follow your.
Like about 100,000.
Yeah. And so Quora, I mean, from what I've gotten, because I don't really spend a lot of time on Quora, but you can basically go on and answer questions. I mean, ask people can ask questions and you can answer them. They can ask you directly, or you can make posts where you are kind of answering a common question, that sort of thing, right, Jessica?
Yeah.
How long have you been doing Quora?
Since 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
So
in early adopter.
Yeah, you were you still working on what were you working on, your bachelor's or your master's?
Yeah, I started in college
Mm-hmm.
and then I wrote this answer about how do top students study, and I think like ever since then I just started growing and growing. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I
Mm-hmm.
guess Laura kind of watched me grow up.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
love that.
that's awesome. So what are you did you want to talk more about kids or you want to move you want okay. um what are you working on now? What are you doing?
What do I work on now? So I work at Roblox.
Okay.
I work on trust and safety, trying to make this gaming platform more safe for children, make sure they're not exposed
Right.
to like porn or like bullying, etc. I just started this job actually. Before this, I was at Facebook working on reducing abusive and unwanted friending.
Mm.
I love
Hmm.
that. My children I took them out, plucked them out of the Roblox community because I didn't really appreciate what was happening in the chat. And so now there have been some guidelines set forth to make chat more safety oriented. So thank you for that.
It's one of our biggest investment areas right now.
Yeah. And it's made a difference that I've kind of allowed them to go back and Roblox again because it is such a great it's I really think that they enjoy it. It's unique and there are so many outlets for them and it's a great way to communicate with friends.
Yeah.
So I prefer that over them getting into social media or something too young, you know. And being stuck at home, it's just, you know, fun and interactive. So
I definitely think so. I think that in Roblox, there's actually some games that are pretty much exactly like the real world, like a real world mall or a real world playground. And it's kind of cool that children can still have those experiences, even though they can't see each other in person.
Mm.
even school.
Yeah, they even have a school.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, and it's interactive and even like they play hide and seek. You know, I don't know if you can hear, but I've got one in the background screaming now at friends on Roblox. So it's definitely something that they enjoy. But at the beginning, I was really concerned about safety. And now it seems like the platform has really taken some strides forward in that. So I have you to.
The team has grown by like a huge amount over like the last year. It just added so many people.
And is that Jessica, was that kind of prompted by the lockdown and how many young people were now online and the concerns about that?
I don't know.
Mm.
I really don't know.
For quite a few years, Patti. I'm sure that in the last year, more children have joined the platform. More children are doing school from home, so I'm sure that Roblox also just made it to the stock market. So lots going on with that.
I joined the company 2 days before the IPO.
So, nice.
Wow.
got in there.
Do you get stocks?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, so what do you so you're at Roblox now. It sounds like you're doing really, really good work over there. And we certainly appreciate that. What are your plans besides having children? Like career wise, where do you see yourself in say 5 years or so?
Yeah. So the way I see it myself is I just turned 30 and I have maybe say like 30 more years to do good work. So I basically just want to like kind of give back as much as I can to the world because they spent like 27 years investing in my education. So it
Mhm.
would be kind of a waste if I didn't kind of do all I could to contribute back to the world.
Yeah. So, in what ways do you think I know you're doing what you're doing now. Do you have ideas for maybe a next step or
I guess
an,
I just don't want to waste time. I want to build something important and useful.
mm. Have you thought about creating your own company?
I think that would be hard, I think there'd be a lot of uncertainty. It
Hmm.
would be hard to assemble the correct team to
Yeah.
support the company and me. I don't think I'd really be a great CEO. I'd need someone to handle the business side.
I hear you. I was just reading up on, so Tesla's gotten a lot of attention, and I know you've worked with AI, right? You were kind of interfacing with AI, and the Tesla car is not just an electric car. There's some, because of the use of AI, we're going to have self-driving cars. Like that's going to be the thing.
Oh, they're ready.
Yeah, already, but I mean like mass produced
Yeah.
self-driving cars are really arriving perhaps more quickly than people had projected. What do you think about that? I was kind of thinking that's kind of cool.
Yeah, actually, one of my best friends works at Waymo, and I think she really likes it there. She's already being assigned to like mentor people, and she works very hard. So I'm sure if Waymo's full of people like her, then I'm sure that it'll come out soon, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I am. That's kind of what they're predicting. And the reason why I was personally excited about it was because, you get to a certain age when, people, because of eyesight or, you're not as confident on the road, as we age, and a lot of times, I mean, my goodness, Jessica, I'm in Florida. So there are, I've encountered many people here who probably shouldn't be driving, right?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't be driving.
There have been times when I've thought that about myself too. And I think if we had self-driving cars, then people could drive longer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, which would give, I was just thinking about the independence, for instance, it would give older people, because that's a huge thing. As you get older, you lose your independence as soon as you really shouldn't be driving. And then people just, and it's sad because a car is so associated with one's independence, being able to kind of go where they need to go when they need to get there, and to be able to do that without being a hazard on the road, I think is a real, yeah.
So critical, actually.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
think yeah, it'll change so much on our roads.
Also, I think for just like commerce and transportation and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I heard that truck driver was like the most common occupation in California.
Really.
So maybe that's not a good thing in that sense, but definitely for empowering old people, yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Like in terms of well, but would it are you saying that it would kind of eliminate truck driving jobs?
Yeah, quite potentially.
Hmm.
Why do you think Uber has been investing so much in their self-driving car group?
Yeah,
awesome.
that's true. That's true. Yeah. I kind of think of trucks a little differently because you've got, I don't know, maybe that is true that you would replace truck drivers, and that's a shame. And that is one of the things that we kind of, as we move into more of a technological culture, I
I mean,
think,
the company Nikola is, you've got Nikola and you've got Tesla, and
right.
Nikola really focused on these solar powered energy efficient semis,
Mm.
that I'm sure will potentially be self driving
Mm-hmm.
before
Mm-hmm.
you know. So definitely, um, just the same as the self checkouts everywhere you go. You can
Right.
fast food
Right.
joint not have to order with a person. That definitely changing. Our world is changing for sure.
Yeah, we definitely eliminated a lot of retail jobs too. I guess maybe soon we'll get the universal basic income, and that would be pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you're really talking about sweeping economic changes. Like, for instance, jobs, because I think like people in general, like, it changes our whole relationship to work. Or like, so, all right. So maybe people won't have to work that 40-hour a week job, whatever, which is really taxing on most people. But I think most people want to, like you said, Jessica, we want to contribute. We want to make a difference. We want to contribute to our communities, contribute to the whole, and find ways to do that. So I think, you know, the kind of, our relationship to jobs or what we do to contribute, there'll be, broad sweeping changes in that, and hopefully there'll be good ones. I mean, there are jobs that I've heard that the young people going to college now, there are jobs that don't even exist right now that will exist by the time they graduate, which is how
Oh
quickly
yeah.
things are changing. Yeah. 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 Well, I wanted to give an opportunity for Robin, if you wanted to jump in here. I don't know if you have a question or you want to make a comment. Seeing if she wants to do that. Hey,
Robin.
How you doing?
Hi, Rob.
Nice to meet you, Jessica.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it was cool reading that chapter. I don't know. It's nice listening to you guys. Oh, on the self-driving cars, did you guys say that people are supposed to like not die in that? Because I think that's the biggest deal about self-driving cars outside of like giving independent stuff. They're not supposed to hit each other.
they're not
Yeah.
supposed to. Yeah,
They
no,
There's a lot of loss of life, right? Due to
Yeah.
human error.
right.
Catch it, but that's what I'm excited for if we get there, if and when, that's really exciting. The safety of it all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
School's
Yeah.
crazy. So have you guys had like a friendship since then, or just here and there? Because I know you had mentioned being able to keep in touch. I thought that was pretty cool to keep in touch with.
Oh yeah. Well, I had gotten in touch with Jessica when I was writing the book, and I was like, whoa. Well, given that there's a story with her in it, I should let her know. But I had followed just a little bit. Like I knew you were on Quora, Jessica, and that you were working for, you were working for Facebook and whatever, and your degrees. I knew you had gone to Stanford, gotten your doctoral there. So, I was aware, not in great detail, but aware and really proud. I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. Go, Jessica, go.
Yeah, when you wrote in the book about Jessica's parents coming into the class to talk to you about like taking a special interest, I thought that was really special, and it showed how unique that position is to recognize qualities that your children do have and work around them and with them and pushing them which is a lot of the answer to Jessica's question about your potential future children and what their morals and values are going to be, which already shows that the fact that you're thinking of that shows you're going to do a great job.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I think kids are taught to cheat. You said it was the culture.
Yeah.
You think as a kid, you're just a sponge. You're just going to do whatever everybody else around you does for the most part. And you can only work within your own limitations of your environment. So if it's a cheating culture, if it's a pay people to do it for you culture, which we know it is, then I know in Palm Beach, you can see women in maid uniforms, French maid uniforms walking to work. Yes, paying people to do things for you is very much part of the culture here and in other places.
Mm-hmm.
So if those kids picked up on that, maybe they were encouraged to do it. But their own morals will override at some point where they will go too far into cheating, or they will say, you know what, this isn't for me. This isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And then they will get themselves out of it. So I just say that for all kids. Haven't been a kid. I was taught I knew what a lie was, but then you're not supposed to say certain things. And I still struggle with that to this day. Mm-hmm. And so knowing what you are supposed to say and aren't supposed to say is something that got me into trouble as a kid. And then I had a very blurry definition of what truth was. I thought truth was a whole lot of telling people whatever they wanted to hear as a little kid, because that's what everybody else did around me. Oh, we don't talk about that. Okay. So, but then I saw the beautiful examples of people who, like, I worked with, I remember one manager telling me, oh, I believe everything that she says because she never tells a lie. And I was like, ooh, I want to be like that. Like, I want to be believed. Like,
yeah, I want to be trusted. I want to be believed. Yeah.
Yeah. The kids are so smart. They will figure out stuff on their own. They know just who they want to be. It's just hard to navigate when there's so many influences of the academic environment. So yeah, I don't doubt that the morals and values are already there for, your potential kids. And as far as the book and the chapter goes, I just kept thinking of a scripture that says, like, about the garden, because, I love my garden, gardening inside even. It says, like, if you declare it blessed, then it's blessed, and if you declare it rotten, then it's going to be rotten. And a tree by its fruit. And I thought, when I first read the story, I was like, Patti recognized something in there. Like, I'm having scenes from Carrie, the movie, come into mind when we're preparing for this. And I too know, like, I remember having kids come up to me, a boy come up to me and ask me out. And I'm like, oh, they're going to play a trick on me. So I hurry up and said no, because that fear exists within, pretty much only within school. Do you think, like, everybody's out to get you? Correct me if I'm wrong. But
hey guys.
But yeah, you guys, I don't want to say the other kids in the class were rotten, because I don't doubt that all of them were really special and unique in all their own ways and journeys. But in that one moment, you had to kind of pick a side and stick up for somebody without knowing what the case was exactly, but you just knew it wasn't right. And something needed to be said. And, like, even the relief of, like, when you expressed it to your faculty and, that they were like, okay, we got this. Now it's somebody else's problem and not just this one student. That's one child who would have the brunt of a whole society's judgment on them at a really crucial time like homecoming, So instead we were able to make really, really happy memories come out of something.
Yeah.
All the little cheating kids, about what was going on, as well and up their morals. If not, then maybe they join cancel culture. We know where to find them.
I related to the girls who were like coming up to Patti, like, you have to do something about this. Because
did you?
That was my role in high school. I didn't think about popularity more so being I was just very outspoken and not the most well-behaved. And so I did get a lot of attention, but there had a zero tolerance for bullying that kind of was part of my moral compass growing up and still is today. And so if I saw anything like that, I would be like, I don't think so. I would approach the child, the teacher. My friend Ashley from high school is listening, and I'm sure that she would agree. It was just not something that I would tolerate with my peers even.
It became a whole big thing.
I remember it differently.
Yeah.
Because that's what you said, Jessica. You said you did, Patti said that you recalled it differently. So I was wondering how that was.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I barely recall it at all.
Good.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, you don't remember being homecoming queen?
Huh?
You don't remember being a co-homecoming queen?
I remember this. I remember like one day somebody was like, "Hey, you're getting nominated for homecoming queen." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." So then I guess I had to go to homecoming, and then I guess somebody gave me a lap dance, which was kind of interesting. And then I also like went up on stage and they gave me this crown, but I guess I wasn't like that. Yeah. And then after that I went to prom the next year and I took Jordan Stark, which was pretty cool, I guess. Yeah. And then I guess my senior year I didn't go anywhere because I was at Caltech.
Yeah. Yeah, you were out.
Yeah. I remember it being hard to pick out a homecoming dress.
Yeah. That's a challenge for so many, for sure.
Yeah.
I wasn't coming and I wasn't picking out a dress. It was like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't. Now, maybe if I had been nominated, I would have, but otherwise, like not interested. So I wanted to go dance, but perhaps not at school. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't do any of those things. I just, just never.
No dancing?
No, I didn't do prom or home. I didn't do any of those things in high school. But that's because that you couldn't bring a girl to prom. Not in those days. So I wasn't, that was, that just wasn't on the, on the menu, so to speak, in high school for me.
Options?
What's that?
No friend options?
No.
I see. No. And that was because of the way that society was then, that they wouldn't
well, sure. So you mean if I brought like a straight girlfriend?
Any friend, just you brought other people. Like, were you able to not be in a relationship come the day of the dance? You know?
It wasn't. It just wasn't. It wasn't something that was done then.
Okay.
Something that was done.
Because it was about pairing up.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It was very, it was very hetero.
So if you didn't have a partner, were you not allowed to go to the dance?
And people just didn't do it. Or it was not really something. Yeah. No. You mean like for prom? Not for prom. And the prom was one of the few things that was allowed. Yeah. It was, it was a Catholic high school. So, it was a little more conservative, but yeah, no, I didn't. Yeah, it wasn't my
dance though.
What's that?
I said, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I thought that, what about the slap dance?
Yeah, what was that about, Jessica? What the heck?
Yeah, somebody like I was in like this circle of people. Somebody gave me a lap dance. I don't even remember who it was, but I think it was like, And then, yeah, I guess I got to see people dance. I got to like dance like them.
Hmm.
It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right on.
Right on is right. I want to bring Ashley. Ashley, did you want to jump in here? Was there anything you wanted to any words you want to share?
Hi, babe.
I'm driving around because I anxiety. I just thought it was funny because I remembered in high school with Taylor, all the pop in senior year, and she stitched and it turned into this whole thing. Oh, those. It was so terrible. Like, it turned into a huge thing to the point where, like, Taylor left hysterical out of the room and nobody was allowed to leave. And somehow our acting teacher, who I wasn't always on the best terms with, let me go after her and make sure she was okay. And I was just like, you did the right thing. They're jerks. Screw them. Why? What was it? It was a big test. Like, something happened.
I don't know. I just remember being in like chemistry and like Anthony. So there was this kid who would like, he had no respect whatsoever for teachers.
That's all. That's
And
the way.
Playing guitar in the middle of class. And I'm like, can you shut the hell up so that I can learn, please? Now he's a famous musician and I'm a stay-at-home mom. So like, whatever. But at the time, shut up so I can learn. Well, thanks for coming after me, Ashley.
No, I wasn't coming. I'm saying you did the right thing. You could have jumped in with everybody else and hid, what was going on, because that happened at G-Star all the time. People were constantly cheating. It was really easy to cheat there. I remember and this isn't to like brag or anything, but like it holds a fond memory to me because the person involved is no longer with us. But and I took Thomas Ficchetti's freaking two people aren't with us anymore. Mr. Reno's class. It was like his history final exam. And I took it for him. And Reno was right there. Like right there. I took it because if he didn't pass his test, he was gonna fail 9th grade. And yeah. I was like,
wow.
Thomas. I was like, cheating is never the right answer, but
we ended up losing Thomas Ficetti to brain cancer a few years ago. And Reno, actually, we lost to COVID this past year. So, yeah, that really touches my heart. It's interesting because I remember refusing to perform in Mr. Reno's class and him pulling me to the side being like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, my home life. And him being like, how long are you going to use that as your excuse? It shook me. Shook me to my soul and made me realize that regardless of what was going on at home, I had a choice to make, so.
Right.
And you did the thing and you blew everyone's minds with your talent. Oh my gosh. Senior year, despite nonsense, even with how everything went, like it was a good year for you.
It's funny. We get to high school and it's a lot of things. There are so many parts of high school that are, we kind of block out, that we try to just live through because it's such a wild experience. Especially when you have, things going on in life outside of school. But to be able to finish school like Jessica Sue and go to college and not even have to go to here, I mean, like, it shows you that people have the potential to do anything they mind to. And what an example of that Jessica Sue is. You can do anything you put your mind to. And hard work pays off.
And and being true to self, like Jessica, I mean, Jessica, I think you've always been someone who's been true to yourself, followed the things that you cared about the most, and that's been what she has been, what you've been focused on, so much respect for that. Definitely.
Are those monkey balls? Because they look like monkey.
What's that?
Oh, yum.
IT candy, stop.
Oh, yummy foods. Yes.
And I think about, the people, like when we were talking about cheaters, I think about like people, and I stay away from politics, and Taylor and we even talked about, it's like, no politics, no politics.
No.
But I think about the people who end up being in positions of power politically, even, like presidents and senators and whatever. Let me tell you, they are not the sharpest tools in the shed. The smartest people are not the ones who end up being the most powerful people. So they are probably the ones who did the cheating. But the smartest people are the folks like Jessica Sue, who end up working in companies to try to make a difference in people's everyday lives. Like, what Jessica's doing right now in terms of making sure that, using her brilliance and her talent to keep something like Roblox safe for children like yours, Taylor. Like, there you go. There you go. Much respect for that. So, but yeah, the people who generally run our governments and our countries, and the people who are most powerful in those areas, are not the smartest people. We are not run. Our countries are not run by the smartest people, because the smartest people, like for instance Jessica Sue, have zero interest in politics. I would say.
Yeah, I guess if you want to be a politician, you have to be quite popular. And I guess if you think that people don't like people who are much smarter than them, then I guess it would make bad politicians too.
Exactly.
Smart enough to know that, huh?
I think it's the same at companies also, like you do have to be careful not to stand out as somebody who is clearly very much smarter than everyone else there. Otherwise, because at a company, unlike in school, the support of other people is just vital to your success. So.
Right, because you work in teams and so forth. Have you had to deal with that, Jessica?
Yeah, sometimes. I think on my last team, people you may know, I was hired in as a tech lead of friending integrity, and my first assignment was to lead this lever finding sprint to find ideas to reduce abusive friending by 20%. And actually, like, this is something that a lot of people had failed to do. Like, usually their ideas would reduce it by like 1%, 2%. And then I found an idea that would reduce it by 28%. And, after that, people just hated me.
Wow.
we made our goal, but everyone hated me, and I left. So.
Wow.
Now, how much of that do you think is because you're a woman? And how much of it is because of your actual what's brought to the table compared to the testosterone in the room?
I really don't know. That's hard to tell because I've never not been a woman. Well,
right on. I know, right?
Yeah, I noticed that the people who were very like smart and technically good, they actually liked me a lot, like my manager. But I think it was the people who were a little bit not so much. Those people didn't really like me much.
Tend to be really, really competitive.
Yeah.
And then become hostile because they can't compete. So they're the most competitive, but they can't. So when they're in a situation where they really can't compete, their 1% doesn't hold a candle to your 28%. So, and that's obvious. And there's really nothing they can do about that except hate you.
I guess so.
Way to go with 28% too. Is that
there you go?
This person feature.
I'm always flabbergasted by my people. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? how could I possibly even be seeing this face? I forgot this person existed. And how awkward. It's like not somebody I would be friends with in my adult lives. I always find it interesting, like the algorithm of how that all works out.
Yeah. Yeah. Jessica, so you spent some time at Facebook. Where do you think Facebook is going in the future? Do you think it's going to continue to be a viable place for folks, or are we going to are we going to leave Facebook behind like we did MySpace?
Well, I think Facebook has its eggs in a lot of baskets. So they bought Instagram and they bought WhatsApp. So. And those social networks are like the up and coming ones. So even if people leave Facebook, then there's still all these other ones. I do think Facebook has a place in the world that can't really be replaced just because of how many active users there are. Facebook is the modern equivalent of a telephone directory, really. Like you can just find anyone you want, anyone who you would ever need to talk to, and use Facebook to connect with them. And now, you don't have to ask girls for their numbers. You can add them on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's got a place forever. And it is like the number 1 or the number 2 player in digital advertising right now.
Yeah.
But everybody's not on Facebook, like a phone book. Everybody's in it, even if it's private, like in Maps. Like everybody's not on there. You almost forget that the people that are on there, you're like, who? You start to lose them. It's like the world just revolves around the ones that are on Facebook or the book faces instead of the, there's like a good portion of people that just refuse to participate and haven't joined.
Yeah, my father refuses. He just doesn't understand technology. Like he doesn't have a smartphone, what have you. But he was talking recently about a long lost friend of his, and I was like, oh really, what's his name? This guy, and was able to present him with an image and an update and life story of this man just because of it. So it definitely is. It may not be for everyone, but it's damn close.
Oh yeah, it's something that really can't be compared. I didn't see that coming in life. Did I not plan? I did not plan. Let me tell you how I did not plan to be in touch with everyone who I grew up with. Right. It was not part of the plan.
We were the last generation.
Sorry, I'm listening.
No, I was interrupting you. We're the last generation of people who had house phones on a cord. I'm still trying to explain that to my children. We moved into our new house and there was, wall plugs and a telephone that actually had a dial tone. And it was the kind where you have to ring your finger around to the numbers. And their father was like, call my phone. And my 12-year-old was like,
does it have a 0 in it? He's sitting there for.
So we've seen so much, our generations, the ones coming up now, 80s babies and 90s babies and anybody older than that has really jumped into the, technology train, has seen changes in the world that we're never going to go back from.
Pen and paper, typewriter to Zoom. I literally would get in trouble at work for writing and not typing. Because that's just, I wrote my first papers on typewriters.
5 decades. It's like.
Yeah. If you grew up in an old fashioned place, you can add more generations to that too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. I like both. As a writer, I like scribbling with my pen. I have my favorite pen that I like to write with, but then I'm also on my computer. So I do both because I think it's a different kind of process. It's a different kind of experience. And and my thinking is different. It's very much like when you're reading something online, it's very different than reading in a book. You know, it's a different experience. Your eyes are doing different things. Your mind is going through kind of a slightly different process. And I think there's value in both, you know, so I try to keep both going, you know.
Well, at
just
this
for me.
point, it's kind of, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you there. It's a segregation though, at this point. It segregates us. If you don't have the technology, you're not able to compete. If your Wi-Fi isn't up to speed, you're gonna miss what the teacher says. At this point. It's not about smarts. That's one thing, like after I read that chapter, I started getting mad because it was like, I don't think it has a whole lot to do with smarts. I mean, obviously it does. Your own intelligence can get you through anything. However, and maybe you can attest to this, Jessica, everybody doesn't have the same intelligence when it comes to the playing fields that we end up on. Like, it has so much more to do with whether or not you had a good breakfast, whether or not you have good parents behind you, whether or not you have your lights on at home, whether or not your teacher, you know, does this or that, or it's just so many factors. You know, if you're getting abused at home, or if you don't have clean clothes, or have little siblings to take care of, even if you do have all the means and the tools, intelligence is just one aspect. And you can mess it all up, but I find it's so much of the support and the people behind you, like those tools, the technology tools, that are going to get you know what I'm saying to you.
Yeah, lots of factors. And I see that so much in my teaching these days, you know, when I have, you know, students who they're trying to be in the classroom and their Wi-Fi keeps dropping off, and then they have to come back, and then their Wi-Fi drops off. And so, I mean, it's just, yeah.
I was grateful for teachers who really saw me. Even though I wasn't great at home, there were teachers who would pull me into the come eat lunch today. Would, you know, sit and eat lunch in the classroom, that I would have personal conversations, that knew that my life wasn't the best at home. So they would send me home with 5 novels on a Friday afternoon.
Right.
And I'd go back up on Monday, like, give me some more, please. Because those were the people who, to this day, changed my life. I truly believe it. I truly believe it. Still in touch with, and of course, their English teacher, still to this day. And I'm just so grateful. And I know that, Patti, that you have been that for so many as well.
Yeah, it's been a joy. It's definitely my calling. It's kind of what I, you know, it's one of the reasons, you know, it's one of the things that I've been put on the earth to do. It's to do this. So it's very fulfilling. I wanted to just, before we close out, Jessica, could you explain centripetal velocity?
I'm trying to remember. It's been about 10 years since I've done physics, but I guess when you're like, let's say you have a ball attached to a string and you're swinging it around in a circle. Hey, Wissy, do you want to explain centripetal force? You might understand this better than me.
Hello.
On the spot.
Long enough. I need to review which one is centripetal and which one is centrifugal.
Aren't they like kind of the same thing? Or
No,
I don't know.
They are opposites.
Oh, damn it. Yeah, anyway, I think like if you have a ball attached to a string and you move it in a circle, this force like pushes the ball inwards or outwards. I don't remember. It's been like 15 years, so.
Yeah. That it was just I had to ask because, you know, that was the title, and even as I was writing the title, I really just didn't know what it was. I did look it up though. I got a somewhat of an idea. You know, Google. Thank goodness for Google sometimes. But
I do think it's kind of sad that like you spend a lot of time in high school and college learning things, and then probably later on you forget like 95% of it.
Absolutely.
So actually, when I first realized this was happening, I started freaking out. I was like, oh, I need to reread this physics book from like 2 halves ago. And then later I just realized, okay, there's no way I can just remember everything. And then now I've forgotten most everything.
Yeah.
The important ones, the important parts. So
Yeah. I think just because we're always taking in new information, new knowledge, and whatever. And so it served its purpose, with some kind of foundational understanding.
Yeah. It helps you think faster about things that you might need to think about, even if they're unrelated to physics.
Mm-hmm.
I think physics taught me a lot about calculus, actually, which is weird. But
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sets the precedent in your mind. It's not, it has so little to do, it's less about the facts. I had a teacher tell me it's about whether you can do it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about, you don't know what you're going to need. It's just to practice the ability of comprehension, the ability of paying attention, ability of following instructions.
Yeah.
Most people have that today.
I think it also, like these particular things, like my students often complain, I say, why we're not ever going to use algebra? Why are we? But I think that those kinds of practices open up like almost like neural pathways in our minds. Yeah.
To be honest, I think the biggest thing you learn when you do algebra, when you do lots of hard things, is you learn about yourself. You learn that you are capable of sticking with a hard problem for 30 minutes or 1 hour, or as you grow older, 4 hours or 4 days. And you learn that you're capable of doing this and not giving up and solving your problems. You learn that you are capable of starting off being kind of crap at something and then eventually getting really, really good at it. And school gives you so many of these experiences. And then when you're an adult, you feel like you're fully functioning. You feel like you can tackle any challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
well put. Yeah, well put, Jessica. And I agree. I think it's about learning, learning self-discipline, learning how to stick with something, and learning that you can do it, that you are capable. And I think those are really, really valuable lessons as we're young that we continue to use as we grow and become parents ourselves.
Now, some people learn the wrong lessons. They learn they can't do it, but that's beside the point.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
But it's never too late to learn something new and to retrain the mind and the brain. That's one thing that technology has brought us, is the ability to access way too much. Anything that comes to mind that we encounter. So
I got some friends who are my age and they still believe they can't do it, and even though they're more than capable. But
yeah, and I think that comes down to like an emotional foundation. So there, that could have been a misfiring, for instance, that happened when they were young, that has to do with their feelings of, confidence, self-esteem, all of those kinds of emotional factors that become bigger roadblocks than we can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, it just takes self-awareness to be able to say, I can't do that. You know what you can do and can't do. It doesn't mean you can't ever do that. It might just mean you can't do that right now. There's different things. 2020 brought out all the struggles in people, like you were saying last week, like about if you were doing one thing before September 11th, you were going to do that a whole lot more, but knowing what your capabilities and limitations are is, I'd say, says a lot in capability alone, just because you're still young, whatever your age group is, Jessica. There's, my dad's 90, and like there's so much that happens very late in life that, really late in life that you couldn't plan for or foresee, whether it's jobs that aren't created yet or, the technology of a permanent record that we never saw coming.
Yep. Yeah. It's true.
But there's another benefit that can come from that, because if you can't do something, you have the resources to find someone who can.
Definitely. Well, listen, I am going to wrap up. Taylor, I believe we have 2 more stories in the book left. So I think we're doing Dharma next week. And that is, that'll be an interesting story. That's the second to the last story in the book. So we're kind of winding down. I want to definitely thank Jessica. Thank you so much for joining us today and participating and adding so much to our conversation. It's been a real delight to have you with us today. And I didn't get a chance to congratulate you on your recent marriage. You guys have been married for about a year. Is it about a year? Yep, about a year.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. That is really exciting. It's been a real joy to watch all of your successes on many levels, with school, your marriage, and now planning to have children. That makes me really happy to see and to witness, Jessica. And I am going to continue to wish you all the best. And I hope we can continue to stay in touch. It's been a real pleasure having a conversation with you this morning. And I thank you. I know this is a bit early out there on the West Coast. So thank you for that. Though you're probably an early riser, I would guess.
Yeah, I think in high school we always had to wake up about this early, so
it stuck.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wonderful. Well, like I said, it's been a real pleasure for me, and I certainly thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, it's been fun chatting with you. Thanks for hosting me.
So nice to meet you, our special guest star.
Taylor, did you have a few last words?
I'm just so glad that Jessica Sue could join us today. It was really great to see the perception of the student and what you were writing about. It's eye-opening to see how you as a teacher influence students, and then the students that influence you. And I think that Jessica Sue was one of the students. So thank you, Jessica, for joining us today and being a part of our talk.
Thank you.
All right, you guys. Well, I hope you all have a terrific week. We do this all again on Sunday at 10 a.m. Have a beautiful week, you guys. Be safe and be healthy.